Hi everybody, this is Pat Hogarty and welcome back to the video demonstrations on how to utilize WinForms. What you see in front of you is the screen that you would initially log in with an email address and a password. And what I'm doing right now is making an assumption that you have already gone through the process of at least logging in one time before. But if you hadn't, this is a good place to start off. So to log in, you're going to need to put in your email address. So I'm going to put in my email address, and you'll start to see I'm not a fast type. It's losrios.edu, and also I need to put in my password. And after I do this, I'll click the sign in button. And it'll take a minute while it's communicating and establishing a connection to the server down at the California Association of Realtors. You may very well get messages like this that will come up. They're just providing you some information. I'll just go ahead and click on continue to log in. And okay, now we are open, and this is the initial screen. And what I did is I deleted everything that I had so it would be as close to what you would see as possible. Across the top here, you'll see that this is California Association of Realtors. This is the WinForms online version of the application. There's also a desktop version. Down below you have transactions, so this allows you to move back and forth between the program. You have administration. There is a help manual, and if you're going to log off, that's where you log off. Down below here is a button to create a brand new transaction or template. And if you already have a transaction you've created on your desktop version of WinForms, you would click this button here to import that. Down below, as you get more transactions as time goes by or years go by, and it becomes difficult to find a transaction, this is where you would search for it, which also brings up another issue I want to mention to you, and that is when we get ready to name this transaction, you really want to think about how you're going to name your client files so that in the future you have some form of a standard convention to find them. So for example, you might use the person's last name would be a way that you could do it. So you just want to think about how you're going to set that up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this button, which is going to actually open up. And you may or may not see, depending upon whether you've logged in or not before, you may have seen some warning messages or security messages. In this case, I didn't see them, but just so know that depending upon your web browser, what kind you have, and how you have your security set up, you may see a few more messages. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new transaction. The naming convention I'm going to use, I'm going to just name it my last name. So I'll just type that in. Below here it says what kind of a transaction is this. I'm selecting an active transaction. It could be inactive or it could be an agent template. It asks here what kind or transaction type is it. It could be a lease, a listing agreement, or a purchase agreement. I'm going to be listing the house for sale. I'm going to choose listing. Here is the type of property. I could be commercial, industrial, multi-unit, residential, or vacant land. I'm going to choose residential. And I'm not going to be importing anything at this time and not using a template. One thing I do want to point out to you is you'll notice that there's an asterisk next to the things that you must have answers to or filled out in order to establish the transaction. Once you've done that, then basically you go scroll down here and you click on the Add button. And again, it'll go out to the server at the association. Again, we see some security messages. It's just telling us that Internet Explorer is attempting to restrict us from doing this. And all it is it's a question to allow us to say yes or no. In this case, we're just going to say continue. And we'll see another one that just says that the website wants to open up content using the program on your computer. That happens to be the WinForms Reader application you had to download in order to use the program. So that's all that is about. And once we do this, it'll go ahead and it'll eventually pop up. And what you're going to see in front of you now is a list of forms. That's why I want you to have that form application or those lists of forms that we're going to be utilizing during the course. So the first thing that I'm going to have to select is I need a cover sheet. This is where I'm going to be putting all the client's information. The next thing is really nice, they put it up on top, which is the residential listing agreement. Down below that, in alphabetical order, I need an agency disclosure statement. And I'm just going to scroll down here very slowly, so hopefully nothing happens. And this is again in alphabetical order, the way I've chosen by the form number. And I'm going to go down to SA, which is seller advisory, so I'm going to select that one. I'm also going to have to select something called a transfer disclosure statement. And this is the statement that the seller fills out, and also you'll fill out a portion of it to say what is in the house, what kinds of equipment, appliances, so on and so forth are in the house, and what condition they are in, and if there's any problems. That's the form we're talking about. Then you have a form you can choose, which is an SDS, which is the smoke detector. As I mentioned before, you can select that form on its own, and there's also a water heater detector form that you can select, which is a W, down in this area right here, which is a WAHS. But what they did in 2007 is they combined the two of these forms with a smoke detector and a water heater statement. So I'm going to select this one, which should take care of both of them. I'm also going to, for our illustrative purposes, I'm going to select the form which is for lead-based paint, which is the FLD form, EFLD, right here. And finally, the ESP, which is the estimated seller's proceeds. Now, the FLD form is the form that if the house is older than, I believe, in the mid-70s, you had to fill this form out to disclose to the clients that they have, that the house has, if it has lead-based paint. And the reason why is because it really affects children. If they ingest the lead-based paint, it can cause mental problems, and that's another reason why, for example, you'll hear about in China when they painted some of the toys for children, when they put lead in it, the companies in China had to take them back because it's found to cause mental disorders in children. So that's what we're really trying to do here. And then finally we have an estimated seller's proceeds form, which is right here. Now this form is the one that's really going to be telling the seller how much money they're going to net after they sell the home. So in our particular case, for illustrative purposes only, those are the forms that we're going to use. In the real world, you probably would have a lot of other forms that you would be selecting. On top of that, there may be forms that your real estate broker would require you to fill out. But the point is, we're trying to show you how to use the software, not how to fill out, 10, 15, or 20 forms. Just how to use the software. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see that they're pulling the forms over from the server into your account. That's what's happening now. And they're actually put them all up here. And I'm going to go ahead and move this window up over here right now and kind of locate it so that you'll be able to see it. Just so you can see what's happening here is across the top we have a menu system. So this works pretty much the same way that the older or that computer applications work, with a file, edit, tools, menu, view, windows, and help. You also have, going across the top, you have these little icons which work the same as any other application, but we'll go into that in more detail in a minute. Up here you have a window that shows My Transaction with the forms that you've selected. So you can see all those forms that we selected right here. And then down below here we have forms that if we wanted to, we could pull in from that library of forms. And those right now are in alphabetical order, but we could also categorize those. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Then over here to the right is the first form you're going to be filling out, which is the cover sheet, and we'll be coming back in a few minutes to talk about how to fill that out. So at this point, this should give you an idea on how you initially establish the application or the forms that you need for a transaction. When we come back, I'll talk a little bit more about the interface, how it works, how you resize and move things around, and we'll be back to talk about that in a few minutes.